Appendage is the newest Hulu original for Huluween.
Yeah.
And this is a directorial feature debut for a new writer-director. And this is about a young fashion designer who is going through some struggles. She's got a boyfriend. Things are going good. She's got a best friend she works with. And she's got a mom whose relationship with her is not the best. This is creating some turmoil in her life, and she's already susceptible to being
turmoiled.
Yeah.
Depressed.
Yeah, she's got some issues. She's working them out though. And she's got a birthmark, and this birthmark starts to grow.
It does.
And something comes out like an appendage. Hence the title.
Hence the title.
Okay, so this is an interesting movie because I give a review like this every once in a while where I'm very confused on the tone that they're going for. Like, okay, this film reminded me a lot of Frank Henenlotter movies like Brain Damage and most notably and obviously Basket Case.
Yeah.
So there's a very silly aspect to the film, and it does present itself in its concept and some of its execution almost as a silly comedy. But the film is never really that comedic. It's actually very serious. So it's like watching a serious Frank Henenlotter movie, which is, I never even thought would be a thing, but now it is. And I'm not sure what to think of it because of that. Because the appendage itself, it is so goofy in design. And the way it's presented, maybe because I'm just stuck up on these Henenlotter movies. I mean, the film definitely feels like it's hearkening back to a self-aware, silly era of cinema, most notably the 80s. Henenlotter, Stuart Gordon, you know, there's a vial in this that's very reagent looking. You know, so there's influences here of those kind of exploitation films, but the film presents itself very seriously pretty much throughout. And on Hulu, or not on Hulu, on IMDb, it's actually being advertised as a comedy horror. But I would not consider this a comedy.
I think it has very dark comedy elements.
Yeah, I suppose.
I love this film. I was super, super into this film. I can definitely see it making like my top 10, top 5 of the year.
Wow, that high.
Yeah, I was so into it. I love the practical effects. I love the creature design. I think all of that looks super cool, and I think that you nailed it with it having this sort of throwback to those 80s films, which is definitely part of why I was so into it. But I also think that the subject matter of the film itself is really great. It's not necessarily something that's super unique to the horror genre to discuss in that way, but I just think that they do it so successfully, and I was so invested. I do think that the concept is really cool. I like the universe that's set up and like what's going on within that as far as like the dynamics go. I also really love the acting from everybody, especially our main character. I found her to be really believable and empathetic and sympathetic. And for me, the dark comedy bits did work. I wasn't laughing out loud or anything during the film. It's not like that kind of comedy, but it definitely was like the, like internal chuckle.
Yeah.
At the darkness kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely not as high on it as you are, but I did quite like it. I did like the movie. I did like the movie for sure. So I'm recommending it.
Yes.
And the film had something to say for sure. Whether or not that is going to be a little too on the nose for you, I could see that becoming the main critique of the film, is that the subtlety of the symbolic nature of the thematic elements,
the analogies,
are going to be thought of as too in your face and obvious, right? So it's not really hiding what it's trying to say in an artistic and thought-provoking way, but that isn't,
it's very straightforward.
Yeah, it doesn't need to do that. And I don't know, so I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. I'm not like top 5, top 10 like Kaylee is, but
I'm so into it.
I do think that this is the kind of film that resonates with you very heavily.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't top 5 would shock me, to be honest, but top 10, that doesn't surprise me as much.
We'll see. I mean, as just coming out of it, I was really high on it. And you know, like I still have to kind of fully take stock of the films to make a proper like top 10, top 5, but it's in there. It's definitely in the top 10 at the very least.
As of right now.
As of right now.
We got a lot of movies coming out this month. Oh my God.
So we'll see. But as of right now, I just think it's really cool. And I do think that if you're the kind of person who struggles with like depression and anxiety and mental illness, I do think that it'll resonate with you. I think that it has I think it has a great message ultimately, which is kind of not rare in horror movies, but you don't always get those kinds of like uplifting messages within a dark story. And that is definitely the case with this.
Yeah. I felt like certain characters were fairly underdeveloped. I felt that the boyfriend didn't really have a lot to say or do in this movie. I found him to kind of be a throwaway element, even though his character brought some plot development to the story. So, but it was kind of interchangeable, and he was almost like unnecessary. But like, as I said, his purpose in the film is there, but it just doesn't really go anywhere ultimately. As far as the appendage goes, I would have liked to have seen more from that. I would have liked to see more body horror, even though we do get some.
Yeah.
I would have much preferred there to be a lot more focus and emphasis on the body horror aspect, since this is a body horror film, first and foremost. Well, I guess, yeah, it's a body horror film disguised, or it's what we were talking about, an analogy kind of film disguised as a body horror movie. But also, in addition to that, I found we'll say, twists very obvious. Like, super obvious. Like, I called it very early on. And that might be just because I watch way too many movies. But whenever there's a focus on certain elements, I'm always like, this is what's going to happen. And it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I found it to be resolved very easily as well. So I just think that the movie is kind of half-baked in a good amount of aspects. And I felt like this could have been fantastic had we elevated those aspects I had mentioned more to land with me. So I think it's a good first effort as a directorial debut. I
think it's fantastic.
So effort. I'm definitely on board with something else they might make, but I would go over the script another time for sure and add just a little bit more. That's for me, but I think it's good. I think it's worth your time.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth your time.
Yeah.
Hulu has some really awesome originals coming out. Like, so far, I don't think we've disliked any of the ones we've seen from this year.
Nope.
So that's great. I'm excied for Halloween.
Yeah, I don't know if they're planning anything else this month,
Yeah,
but I hope
know.
they are.
I do too.
Yeah. So that's that. Appendage. Let us know if you check it out. It's on Hulu, as we said about 75 times. All right.
Bye.